In the next 5 minutes, this man will either lose his career or lose himself. Not because of a scandal, not because of an election, not because of an enemy, but because of one decision. This is the moment a leader chooses integrity over survival. He did not climb this high by accident. Every promotion had a story. Every title had a price. Every door that opened behind him closed for someone else. He had learned how power works, who to call, what to say, when to stay silent, when to move first. He knew how to read a room before a word was spoken. He knew when a smile meant approval and when it meant protection. People trusted him. Boards trusted him. Donors trusted him. Partners trusted him. Entire teams built their future around his signature. Hundreds of families depended on decisions made in rooms he controlled, but he carried influence the way others carry tools, not loudly, efficiently. From the outside, his career looked secure. From the inside, he knew something most people never learn. Power does not protect you. It only delays the moment you must choose what you are willing to protect instead. It started with a detail that did not fit, a number that had been adjusted, a report that arrived too clean, a line removed before legal review. Nothing dramatic, nothing illegal on its own. Just wrong. He could have ignored it. Most people would have. Because the system around him was stable, profitable, quiet, and carefully protected. But one inconsistency led to another, then a pattern. And suddenly the picture became impossible to unsee. This was not a mistake. It was a design, a structure built to hide risk, to protect reputations, to keep investors calm, to keep the story clean. Someone somewhere would eventually pay for it. They just would not be in the room. Everyone around him already knew. They were simply pretending not to. No one said it out loud. They didn't need to. The silence itself was the agreement. The system did not threaten him. It didn't need to. It offered him something far more effective. An exit. A solution that kept everything intact. No headlines, no investigations, no internal war, no public embarrassment. A senior voice pulled him aside and said it quietly, almost kindly. You don't have to lie. A pause. You only have to stay quiet. He was shown how the issue could be reframed, how the language could be softened, how responsibility could be spread so thin that no one would ever carry it. So there would be a review, later. There would be adjustments, gradual. There would be committees, processes, timelines. Everything would look responsible, and nothing would actually change. He could protect the company, protect the people he liked, protect the teams who trusted him, protect the stability everyone depended on, and protect himself, all without saying a single untrue word. Silence was not presented as cowardice. It was presented as leadership. He went home that night with the conversation still playing in his head. Not as words, as pressure. The kind that settles into your chest and refuses to move. He wasn't afraid of social media. He wasn't afraid of headlines. He wasn't afraid of being criticized. He was afraid of something much quieter. Losing everything he had built. Years of loyalty. Saw years of reputation. Years of influence. Years of being the person people returned calls for. If he spoke, the damage would not be abstract. It would be personal, Friends would become careful. Colleagues would become distant. Doors would close without explanation. He would be labeled difficult, unpredictable, not a team player. And in the language of power, those labels end careers. He realized something uncomfortable. He was not choosing between right and wrong. He was choosing between survival and integrity. One would keep his life intact. The other would rearrange it completely. And the worst part was this: the system would not collapse if he stayed silent. It would continue, smoothly. He would be rewarded for protecting it. Silence would cost him nothing today, only someone else. Later. And no one called him that night. No one followed up. No one demanded an answer. The system was patient. It always is, because it knows how most stories end. He stood alone in his kitchen, staring at his phone. One message, one draft email, one open document. That was all it would take. No press conference, no dramatic confrontation, just a quiet line placed into the right channel. He realized something that unsettled him. No one was watching. No camera, no audience, no moral spotlight. There would be no applause for doing the right thing, no protection for what would come after. This decision would exist entirely in private, and still, he could not escape himself. Because when the room is empty and the noise finally fades, there is only one witness left, the person who has to live with what you chose. That he had learned how to manage risk, how to manage people, how to manage perception. But he had never learned how to manage conscience. It does not negotiate. It waits. And the longer you delay, the louder it becomes. The moment itself was not dramatic. No shaking hands, no racing heart, no heroic music, just a breath he didn't realize he was holding. And one sentence. He typed it, read it once, then again. He knew exactly what it would do, who it would implicate, what it would trigger, how far it could travel, how little control he would have afterward. One sentence could destroy a career. One silence could destroy a future that was not his. He hovered over the button. Not because he was uncertain about what was right, but because he was certain about the cost. Integrity does not feel heroic in the moment. Once it feels expensive. Then he pressed send. Nothing exploded. No alarms. No urgent calls. No sudden chaos. At first, everything looked normal. Too normal. Then the silence changed. Replies slowed. Meetings disappeared from his calendar. Conversations shortened. People who once filled his phone with invitations suddenly had full schedules. A few friendly faces became cautious. A few familiar voices became carefully neutral. Support did not turn into opposition. It simply evaporated. He did the right thing, and everything became harder. He felt it immediately, not as punishment, as distance. Influence is not removed loudly. It is withdrawn quietly. Power does not have to attack you. It only has to stop answering you. And that is when he understood the real price. Not scandal, not humiliation, isolation. Because systems do not fear those who oppose them. They fear those who disrupt their silence. What he experienced was not unique. It was structural. Most systems are not built to reward truth. They are built to reward stability, predictability, control. The person who keeps the machine running smoothly is always valued more than the person who questions what the machine is doing. Silence is efficient. Silence avoids lawsuits. Silence avoids panic. Silence protects quarterly results. Silence protects reputations. Silence protects donors. Silence protects platforms. Silence protects leaders. That is why silence is framed as professionalism, as maturity, as strategic patience. But the truth is quieter and far more dangerous. Most systems do not survive because people are evil, but they survive because good people stay silent, not out of cruelty, out of fear, out of responsibility for their families, out of loyalty to colleagues, out of exhaustion, out of the belief that someone else will speak. Later, and later becomes never. That is how harm becomes policy, and policy becomes normal. He was not a president. He was not a celebrity. He was not a public figure. And that was the point. Influence does not begin with a title. It begins with proximity, with access, with trust, with the moment someone relies on your judgment. Most people will never sit in a boardroom like his, but everyone eventually stands in a smaller version of the same room. A meeting where a detail is ignored, a report that is softened, a mistake that is quietly redirected, and a story that is adjusted so no one gets uncomfortable, a problem that is postponed because fixing it would cost too much. Every profession has its version of this moment. Corporate, healthcare, education, church leadership, nonprofits, media, technology, government. The scale changes. The pressure does not. And neither does the question. When your silence protects you, but harms someone else, what do you choose to protect? You do not need power to face a moral crossroads. You only need responsibility. If telling the truth would cost you everything, your position, your reputation, your security, your access, your future plans, would you still tell it? Not when the cameras are on. Not when people are cheering. Not when your story can be framed as courage, but when no one is watching. When there is no guarantee you will be protected. When doing the right thing only guarantees one outcome, your life becomes harder. If honesty would quietly erase the version of your life you worked years to build, would you still choose it? Because this is how integrity is actually tested. Not in public, in private. Integrity can cost you your position. Silence can cost others their future. Not every leader loses power when he tells the truth, but every leader loses himself when he doesn't. This story is a fictional leadership narrative created for reflection. It is not based on a specific real person or real case. When the moment comes, may you recognize it. Sometimes the bravest decision is not the one that saves your career, but the one that lets you keep your soul.